Our next guest runs the second largest uranium producer in the world, and he's right here in studio to give us his thoughts on demand for nuclear energy, particularly in this country, along with his outlook on the uranium market and industry and the latest on his company's plans. This is Grandey, CEO of Cameco. Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So when we look at uranium prices right now, they've come under some pressure of late. What accounts for that? Why are we seeing so many hedge funds unload positions?
Well, it was a great run-up in price, and the price, of course, began to come under pressure and relax from the 136 high down to 45. People get a little bit worried when prices are coming down. They began to liquidate inventories a little bit. Smaller producers trying to make year-end sales. So that's added to the volatility that we see in the marketplace.
Well, the Department of Energy expected to unload some stockpiles there as well. How much of an effect do you think that'll have on the prices?
I think there's been an element of that in the market. Of course, they haven't sold anything yet.
Right.
And likely now to be sometime next year, but some with inventory or production have wanted to sell ahead of that. So clearly there's a suppressive effect for that. How much they're going to sell at what rate still remains uncertain. Not a huge amount over time, but in the near term it'll add to the volatility, I believe.
Well, when we look at the question of the nuclear option here in the U.S., we were speaking yesterday with the commissioner of the NRC, and he said he couldn't really put a timeline on when we will see a development of nuclear facilities here in the U.S. once again. There hasn't been one in about 10 years' time. And yet, there's anticipation from the CEO of Westinghouse and others that 2016 may be right around the corner. We may see facilities up and running by as soon as that date. What are you anticipating?
Well, I think by that date, in the U.S., we will see a few new plants that are up and running. Not a huge number, maybe 4 to 8 that will be finished by then.
By 2016?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, a lot of that obviously is dependent on what happens in the political process, the ability to also sell the concept to the American public. When we look at the climate change talks that are upcoming in Copenhagen, there is some anticipation that nuclear energy can be sold as part of a package of clean energy. What do you foresee on the regulatory front, on the legislative front, in terms of impact on your business?
Well, I think it's all positive. I think a number of years back, people began to recognize that nuclear power had some real benefits from a climate change perspective, frankly, from an air pollution perspective as well.
But yet, it's still doing away with the waste material that still has high levels of radioactivity is a problem. I mean, it's hard to truly call it green. But how do you foresee this getting through in the legislative process right now? Are you betting that we will be able to win over sort of popular support in the U.S.? Decision makers
in many jurisdictions, nationally, state level, have seen the benefits of nuclear technology and are moving it forward. So I think there's a real groundswell of support publicly as well. We've seen the level of acceptance among the public at large go up dramatically into the high 60s in this country.
Now, Cameco's got a fair amount of cash on the books. You've also got, I believe, $1.2 billion in borrowing capacity right now. You've said you've got some interest in acquisitions. When can we see some of those happen?
Well, to begin with, we're producing about 20 million pounds a year. Within 10 years, we intend to double that to 40 million pounds. And we'll do that from our existing assets. We'll do it organically. We've got a team and have had a team for a number of years that look at acquisition opportunities. Market valuations have been a challenge. We did the Kintyre acquisition about a year ago. We think that was quite a good one. So we're always looking, but we're not out there to buy just to get bigger.
But which
we want to make sure that we add value.
Make sense?
Well, one of the objectives we pursue is being geographically diversified, and that's been good. So we look clearly at Australia, which is where we did last year, and then Australia.
Australia. All right. Thank you so much, Grandey, for joining us here in studio.